This is NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Hope all of your weeks are off to a great start. We have another jam-packed show coming your way on the docket. Here's what we're discussing. Taking a look at the top free agents available after the NBA Summer League and after the peak of NBA free agency has died down. This late in the process, still some really good players available. So let's take a look at this list right now. We start off with Miles Bridges. He is not available because of his lack of elite play. In fact, his jump from 2 years ago to this past year, as we're about to show you, was sensational. But unfortunately for him and his pockets, he has that domestic violence case against him, and that's why the Charlotte Hornets didn't give him that deal that a lot of people had expected them to give him in the lead up to NBA free agency, worth $25 to $30 million. When is he going to play? Is he ever going to play again? Will he be eligible to play this year? Because of the lack of talking from the NBA, they really haven't talked about this criminal case against Miles Bridges. So a lot to unpack with that. Colin Sexton, another one of the top free agents available right now, a really good player who got injured last year, and maybe that's why his value is somewhat damaged. But year 2, year 3, he was really, really good as a guy who averaged between 20 and 24 points per game. If you're looking for a spark plug guard who can be a very good athlete while you in transition and put the biscuit in the basket, Colin Sexton could be that guy. As for Dennis Schroder, I think he's available because he's not the most efficient player out there, but he has proven throughout his NBA career many times, quite often, that he's a very good six-man offensive player off the bench. Montrezl Harrell has a criminal case against him. It is a federal case because he got pulled over for having about 3 pounds of marijuana. I think at some point that's going to get sorted out and a team will sign him because he, like Dennis Schroder, a very good six-man in the front court. And then Carmelo Anthony. This guy has really extended his Hall of Fame career, one of the best offensive players that we've ever seen. And really, the last couple of years, whether it be with Portland or Los Angeles, he has turned into a pretty reliable three-point shooter, which was not his calling card with the Denver Nuggets as well as with the New York Knicks. But he's kind of evolved his game, and he's still working out every single day, working on his craft, getting in good conditioning, and I think that's really impressive for him considering he's accomplished everything that he's needed to accomplish, yet he still wants to play at the NBA level. Do want to go back and revisit Miles Bridges. I talked about that jump from 2 years ago to this past year. It's quite evident by the numbers that he put up. 2020, 2021, less than 13 points per game, 6 rebounds. He shot 50% from the floor, 40% from three, with less volume and less shot opportunities than he had last year, and played 29 minutes per game. The minutes go up this past year, and with that, the production nearly doubled. I mean, points per game went up to 20, rebounds went up, the shooting percentage went down just a bit, but that's expected when you're getting some more run. This guy is a human highlight reel. He can throw down some massive, massive dunks, which gets that Hornets announcer just going wild. And he looked to be a good running mate with LaMelo Ball, who, by the way, is going to change his jersey number. But with that criminal case against him, his future certainly murky, and teams are definitely not willing to pay him big-time money because of that. So your one-word reaction to Bridges fumbling the bag, it's probably surpassed Dennis Schroder, who turned down 2 off seasons ago that 4-year, $84 million contract extension with the Los Angeles Lakers. Then he had to settle for $5.9 on a 1-year deal with the Boston Celtics. It could get messy in the comment section, but either way, let us know your one-word reaction to Bridges in the comment section right now. As for Colin Sexton, it's really weird that no teams have really shown him interest. Now, he is a restricted free agent, so the Cavaliers have an opportunity to match any contract that's offered to him by another team. But how has another team not offered Colin Sexton a contract up to this point when you take a look at what he did in 2019-20? That was his sophomore season. And then in his junior campaign 2 years ago, the production was even better. We're talking about a guard who can score at all 3 levels, who's not the best disher of the basketball. But if you want a guard who can score at every single level, get to the rack, hit the mid-range, knock down some threes, Colin Sexton is that guy. Now, some people might have questions about him playing alongside Darius Garland. According to the Cleveland Plain Dealer, this was 2 weeks ago, that the Cavs want to bring back Colin Sexton. If not, he can be used at their disposal as a very valuable trade chip if other teams show an interest in Colin Sexton. But up to this point, They have not, which I find very, very confusing because this guy is still young. He can be very affordable in that $20 million per year range. And frankly, I think he's a really solid player and has been since getting drafted in the first round out of Alabama. So I want to hear from you. A lot of you are basketball experts, basketball aficionados. Why do you think there has been absolutely no interest up to this point, a couple weeks into NBA free agency, for Colin Sexton's services? Let me know once more in the comment section. We certainly value your responses here at Chat Sports. We move ahead to this list, and there's certainly a drop-off from the 5 players who we just talked about to the remaining players who we're going to talk about on the show. Jordan Nwora played with the Bucks last year, got some decent run as a rotational piece. He can give you some solid and valuable minutes on a playoff contender. LaMarcus Aldridge, 36 years old last year, and after that health scare with his heart, looked as though his Hall of Fame career was going to be cut short. I mean, this guy for such a long time was great for the Portland Trail Blazers for a long while with the San Antonio Spurs. And last year, we'll show you the numbers coming up around the corner. Aldridge was pretty good as a backup big. The same can be said for DeMarcus Cousins. Now, if you had to choose between the two, yes, Cousins is younger, but after an 8 to 10 year stretch in which Boogie was on that Hall of Fame trajectory, a guy who was giving you 25, 30 points per night, knocking down threes, mixing it up and chopping it up down low, and a pretty lively figure, pops his Achilles, hasn't been the same player since. Campazzo, he's a fun backup point guard who's very, very shifty. And I was looking at a team like the Dallas Mavericks as a guy, he could maybe go there, but up to this point, his market has also been somewhat silent. And the same can be said for Bismack Biyombo. Now, he was thinking about not playing last year, had to deal with some family tragedies, and was a pretty solid backup big behind DeAndre Ayton. Do the Suns elect to bring him back? Maybe. Now, I want to go also back to LaMarcus Aldridge. So you look at the numbers that he did and put forward last year. 13 points per game, 5.5 boards, about a block per night, shot about 55% from the floor. That mid-range J, living around the free throw line, living on the elbow, on the baseline is still really sweet. And defensively, yeah, the block per night is good, but he just lacks that athleticism that he had back in the day. But again, you can go with a worst option for a backup big as compared to LaMarcus Aldridge. Now, to DeMarcus Cousins, last year played a couple of games with the Milwaukee Bucks, and he was able to back up the Joker, 9 points per game, 5.5 rebounds. And I understand, you look at the numbers here, 46% from the floor, 30% from three. He really lacks lift. So last year, he struggled to finish around the rim. That's certainly problematic for him. He just doesn't have the bounce or the athleticism that he had before those injuries. It was the torn Achilles. It was the knee injury that he blew out with the Golden State Warriors. But again, this late in the process, if you're a team like the Philadelphia 76ers and you had to play DeAndre Jordan in the playoffs last year, you decided to bring him back over to DeMarcus Cousins, that's really weird. So there are teams who are going to need some backup bigs. That's where Aldridge and Cousins enter the equation. I do expect them to sign on with teams as long as they want to continue their NBA careers, but maybe it doesn't happen until later, and frankly, they might not be concerned with the lack of their market. So pick a big between the two. LA for LaMarcus Aldridge, DC for DeMarcus Cousins. Get your votes in. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to us here at Chat Sports. Just surpassed 318,000 subscribers. Appreciate all of you for continuing to support everything that we do. Just hit that red sub button down below. And if that sales pitch isn't enough for you, how about this? This is why you should subscribe to us here at Chat Sports. In addition to us just being cool, hardworking dudes, we put out multiple videos per day, live shows every single week with the NBA, and soon we'll be doing some live NFL shows. We cover those two leagues as well as college football. Nobody does audience interaction better than us here inside these walls at the company. We're consistent, informative, and entertaining, so just smash that sub button down below or plug in that link. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. 5 players left to get to. Avery Bradley starts us off here, and actually we're going to talk about 2 Los Angeles Lakers back-to-back. For Avery Bradley, still a solid defensive guard, but the shooting stroke is so inconsistent, and it really does wane. He got some decent minutes last year for a Lakers team that was one of the oldest in the history of the NBA. If you need a back end of the bench defensive guard who can guard some ones and twos, Avery Bradley can still do that at this point in his career. Dwight Howard. Honestly, would you take him over DeMarcus Cousins or LaMarcus Aldridge? He, like Carmelo Anthony to a certain degree, And it's funny, we've talked about so many Lakers here on the show. It goes back to the point I just made moments ago about them having one of the oldest rosters, and that's why they have so many free agents left. I think they have some of the most free agents left among the players who occupied roster spots last year among any team in the NBA. But for Dwight, he can block shots, he can rebound, and if you're asking him to give you 10, 15 minutes per night during the regular season, he can do that. And then you can utilize him in matchups where you have to put them up against some other fives who primarily play on the low block and they don't stretch their games out to the three-point arc. As far as Jeremy Lamb goes, early in his career, you're like, okay, there's a little bit of something there. But, man, his consistency shooting the basketball has been a monster problem. I like Markieff Morris, certainly brings some toughness to the table. Doesn't give you much in the form of a defensive player, but as a guy who's just a dog and a foxhole guy, good culture builder. And then Hassan Whiteside. Isn't it crazy to look at the downfall of Whiteside? He got that monster deal from the Miami Heat, and really since then, it's been downhill for Hassan Whiteside, but wasn't terrible last year for the Utah Jazz as a Rudy Gobert backup. They kind of went with similar players at that 5 spot, which each of these players brings. And I kind of just talked about it, right? But for Avery Bradley, solid guard defense against point guards and other 2 guards. Throughout the rigors of an 82-game regular season, sometimes you need guards who are willing to just get in the faces and be a pit bull against some other really good scoring guards. Avery Bradley is not scared to do that. For Dwight Howard, he's a capable big. For Jeremy Lamb, the shooting numbers are certainly concerning. Last year, 30% from distance. Markieff Morris, toughness, and an offensive forward who can shoot the three a little bit, but also knock down some mid-range jumpers. And then for Hassan Whiteside, a shot blocker who can dunk some oops as he rolls to the cup off some pick and rolls. So there you go, the top free agents left. And at this point, the list a little bit thin, but still some solid players left who playoff teams can pay cheap money to. And those players can make an impact on a playoff team or a championship level team. So with that, I ask you this as we round out this segment. The best free agent left is who? We want to hear from you. Shout them out right now in the comment section. And as always, thanks for supporting us here at Chat Sports.